Hi, everyone. I'm Father Scott Vanderveer, here with a third installment on our series on transitions. And I was thinking today about the Mary Knoll magazine. Did you ever read that? It was one of those things that used to come to the house when I was a kid and fascinated me. All of these people who seemed so much like me, doing work that seemed so extraordinary. Missioners from the Northeast, from towns not unlike mine, living in Papua New Guinea, serving people in Bolivia or in Haiti or in Tanzania, just all over the world. And it was so clear that there was this openness that all of them had. There was this wild abandon to just do whatever God asked them to do. Sometimes they would feature missioners who were in the retirement era of their life, and they would talk about where they had been over the years. Some of them started off in China and then made their way to South America before opening a school in Kenya and then retiring to Taiwan. It was just unbelievable. And I'm barely exaggerating as I say this. I was blessed during my time as a seminarian to get to spend 2 summers at the Mary Knoll Language School in Cochabamba, Bolivia. And I was just blown away by how authentic these true disciples of Christ really are. They desire nothing more than to find out what God wants them to do with their lives and then to do it. They're just as open and as humble as you can imagine. It reminds me of a line that I once heard spoken by Saint Hildegard of Bingen. She said, all of us are called to become more and more like a feather that floats on the breath of God. She said, be a feather on the breath of God, so that if God wants to exhale you in a direction, you'll have no resistance. Just like a feather, you'll go. And if God wants to draw you back, you will be drawn directly to where God needs you, right by God's heart. Feathers on the breath of God. What does it look like to become more and more like feathers on the breath of God each day that we live? What a challenge. What a call. I know that as I get ready to transition from being the pastor of St. Mary's in Coxsackie and St. Patrick's in Ravenna to now being the pastor of St. Mary's Church and the wonderful regional school there in Glens Falls, I'm finding myself asking for the grace to be more like a feather on the breath of God, more like a Mary Knoll missionary, like one who goes wherever the need is, like someone who is ready at a moment's notice to go wherever they need to. I was once told that the first missionaries who came to Scotland arrived by boat. And the first thing that they did when they arrived was to bring their boats up on the shore and burn them so that they would not be tempted to leave. They believed that they were called by God to be in Scotland. And so they burned their boats so that they would be where they were called to be. We have to be incredibly brave and flexible in order to do the work that God is calling us to do. Many of you know that recently I lost a dear friend and mentor, Sister Mary Frances Cannon, teacher and role model for me that I loved so deeply. We were able to record a conversation, a podcast for the Profiles of Endurance series that we've been doing. And it's a treasure of an interview. It was just 3 weeks before she died. We had absolutely no way to know what was coming around the corner. But one of the things that I heard from this woman who had been a single mother and a teacher and then had gone from being a Bible Baptist to a Methodist, to a Presbyterian, to an Episcopalian, to finally become a Catholic, and then to become a religious sister. to move from her home in the South to the North, and then to be reassigned once again to the South. And then, at a time of particular need in her family, in her late 60s, she adopted her own grandson and raised him until she died unexpectedly at age 75, just last month. In all of the twists and turns of her life, as she endeavored to be a feather on the breath of God, she asked God constantly for the grace of flexibility. Please, Lord, she said, let me be flexible so that I can bend and not break. Bend and not break. There is a goal for all of us. How can I become more supple, more flexible, so that I can bend without breaking, so that I don't become fragile or brittle? All of us are called to be as flexible, as supple, as soft, as malleable as we can be. I remember knowing a priest when I was in my 20s who was helping me discern my own call to the priesthood. And he talked about what it might be like if the day came that the bishop asked him to leave his parish, which was in the Diocese of Syracuse. And he said, my goal is to live so lightly that when the bishop calls me, I'm going to bring a couple pairs of underwear and a Bible and head out on the road wearing whatever clothes are on my back. I just remember thinking how simple that was and how inspiringly beautiful it was. How can I be ready at a moment's notice? How can I have the freedom to go to Taiwan if I need to, like a Mary Knoll missioner, and then to go off to Istanbul, and then to Africa, and then to be willing when the time is right to retire in a very simple room of the Mary Knoll headquarters in Ossining, New York? How can I live so lightly that I can just be free? Thomas Merton once asked his readers, are you going to spend the rest of your life carting around treasures from the past? Or are you instead going to live lightly so you can be free to go wherever you need to go and be whatever you need to be? That's the grace I'm praying for right now as I embark on this transition. But I'm not alone. So many of us are in transition time. All of the priests of the diocese are in flux as we restructure during this time of pastoral planning. And all of the folks who are not priests are responding to trying to rebuild better after COVID, trying to figure out how to adjust to life now in 2021, which is so different than life in 2019, we almost can't recognize some parts of it. All of us are called to become as flexible, as soft, and as malleable as we can, to become feathers floating on the breath of God. That's my call, and it's a task that I am challenged by, but eager to embrace. And I hope that you are too. Together, let us face our transitions with courage and hope. God bless you all.